Hi students, you are welcome to this class on AEA 507, Agricultural Risk Management Lesson 7. The topic of our discussion today will be on the role of government and information technology in risk management. I believe you all enjoy topic 6. Topic 7 will be very interesting. Stay put and listen. I am your course facilitator, Dr. Helen Inyang. Thank you. Yeah, once again, the topic of our discussion today is on the roles of government in risk and uncertainty management. The rules of government in risk and uncertainty management. One of the major roles of agriculture is provision of food. Risks and uncertainty in agriculture therefore has a direct effect on achievement of Millennium Goal of food security by both developed and developing countries. It is on these premises that government at all levels must not be passive but active participants in risk management in agriculture. Risk inhibits external parties from investing in agriculture. Timely information is also essential to managing risks. Information communication technology have proven highly cost-effective instruments for collecting, storing, processing, and disseminating information about risks. Let us also look at the rationales for government intervention in agricultural risks. What are the rationale the government use? Government intervention in markets can incur cost and create economic distortion. Though any intervention to manage risks in agriculture must be justified with a clear rationale, and any costs outweighed by benefits or returns to interventions. Ideally, government should intervene only when the market has failed. That is when the government comes in, or in expected. If the government also expects that the market will definitely fall, they can come in to provide satisfactory outcome. And this outcome can improve by government policies. Right. The two main reasons have been adduced for policy intervention by the government. These reasons include number one, to address inefficiency in operation of market and institution. There are so many inefficiency in market operation. And then also to address inefficiency in equity and distributional grounds. Yes, the government will try to make sure that there is a balance in distribution, that justice, the distribution would be done with fairness and justice. So let's see the inefficiency. The inefficiency can arise in agricultural risk market from three sources. Let's look at this in any inefficiency. Number one here is imperfect or costly information. Number two is a extensive of existence of externalities. Number three, where insufficient computation in agricultural risk markets gives rise to market power for providers of risk management instrument, that is insurance. So we are going to look at this one after the other. Let's pick the market imperfection. Let's pick the information cost. Market for risk management service in agriculture require information on magnitude and probability of loss faced by farm business. in order to function. The highly unpredictable and diverse nature of risk in agriculture means that information is often unknown or very costly to acquire, both for farmers and providers of risk management service. The result is that the coverage of the information is incomplete and unequal between participants in risk markets. In agriculture, problems of incomplete or asymmetry information tends to be greater in yield risks than price risks, as farmers have more control over the former. Then looking at the asymmetry information, this can lead to some farmers being priced out of the market for risk management service, as providers can not distinguish between high and low risk businesses and so set premiums based on average risks, making protection such as insurance prohibitively expensive for farmers who are less risky than average. So with this, and this happens as a result of lack of adequate information or data. So the insurance companies can just sit down in their office and then just assign a premium to these farmers, which will make them suffered more than expected. Then the second one is externality. Externality in economics. In economics terms, an externality exists when there is some cost or benefit that accrues to an outside parties from a market transaction or decision that is not fully factored into market price and hence the decision. So agricultural example is that of the animal and plant disease. In this case, the provision of insurance will require the insurer to obtain information to inform the level of risk that an individual business apply for insurance. For insurance may suffer a loss due to the plant or animal disease. Now, taking this, for any single business, the risk for any single business, the risk of a loss will depend only on the level of investment in biosecurity by that business, but also in the biosecurity of neighboring farms. Sometimes it may not be its own, but the neighboring farm may constitute a risk to them or an external effect on the farmers. So here, to be able to determine the premium, then the insurer needs information beyond that of the applicant, which can be costly to obtain. So in this case, externality in agriculture can excavate information problems, meaning that the provision of insurance for potential loss due to animals or plants is most likely to remain incomplete, provided at suboptimal level or not provided at all. Then let's look at the market power. Here, where a market is characterized by very few suppliers, as in the case in many markets for agricultural insurance, the supplier will tend to have some power to influence market prices and ultimately the ability to generate economic rent or abnormal profit. This is normally common during a monopoly. So this is an indicator of lack of competition in agricultural insurance market. It's monopolies that always result to risk management related policy in agriculture. Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development study shows that risks in agriculture are interconnected. sometimes compounding, sometimes offsetting each other. For example, if the price of outputs or inputs, example fertilizer, and outputs, example agricultural commodities, move in the same direction, the impact on net return is reduced. As if they move as inputs, the more they as input increase, then the agricultural output to increase. So you can see that the net returns will be reduced. So production risks can be partially offset by price movement, as when crop yield are low, the price are high. Normally during it is like that. During the bumper harvest, the price will definitely become very low, and then there will be surplus in the market. As such, once there is surplus in the market, the price will fall. So the consumers will have everything at a very cheap price. But when there is there is lean harvest, and then maybe something happens, like let's take for example any of these risks or uncertainties, taking for example flood or outbreak of disease, it may affect also the supply. So as such, the supply will become very low. For example, the crop yield, if there is maybe disease outbreak or pests or floods that affects many areas of land, many farmers, then definitely the yield will become very low. As such, the price will go up, because when there is scarcity now, when there is no surplus supply in the market, then definitely the price will go up. So it is the next risk. It is the next risk effects on income that matters. And income variability can be significantly reduced risk effects, while all agricultural policy affects the risk environment faced by farmers and their response to risks. So certain policies can also be seen as more targeted at reducing or mitigating risks or helping farmers cope with advanced outcomes. So the main driver of these agricultural policies and among its objectives is stability of our agricultural market as follows. So we are going to look at it. We'll take stability policy. So these policies are targets at addressing problems associated with output prices volatilities. Volatilities. So the output prices, these policies are targets at addressing problem of associated with output price volatilities. So the broad list of this policy is provided below. We have the export subsidies, input tariffs, guaranteed agricultural prices, buffer stock, that is intervention purchase or policy. So we are going to look at this one after the other. Let us consider the export subsidies. Export subsidy is a government policy to encourage exports of goods and discourage sales of goods on domestic markets through low cost loans or tax relief for exporters, or government finance international advertising or research and development. So export subsidies are also guaranteed when internal price supports, as the as in guaranteed minimum price for a commodity. So they create more production than can be consumed internally in the country. Once there is this guaranteed minimum price, at least the farmers will be encouraged that whatever happens, once they produce, that they are sure that they will have already markets that they will be able to dispose of their goods, whether they are able to export it or not. So export subsidies are payment made by the government to encourage the export of specific products. Then let us look at import tariffs. An import tariff is a tax placed by government on commodities that are shipped into a country from foreign countries. These taxes are often a way to discourage countries' consumers from buying products from another country and to support domestic products and services. So government generally have the right to determine what products will have a tariff and how much that tax will be. So normally that these tariffs, in most cases, if the government really don't want, because normally when they, especially the industries that can be, or the produce products that can be produced internally within the nation. So the government will try as much as possible to make sure that they increase the tariff so that will discourage the importers of these products to import them into this country. They are doing this in order to strengthen the domestic industries in the nation. Because if they allow it now, the domestic industry will suffer because those people who are already developed, the foreign countries who are already developed, will just bring in their goods and dumps them into the nation with a very reduced price. As such, the consumers will now rush to buy their own at the expense of the domestic on the industry. They will indirectly kill the domestic industry. So the government is trying to discourage this so that our domestic industries will stand strong. Then let's look at the guaranteed agricultural prices. This involves this is giving the farmers more or less precise guarantee of a price level or minimum price he may expect sometimes ahead. That is, and also this is also indirectly or help to encourage the farmers to produce more, knowing that they know the price of how much they are going to sell their produce after harvesting. Then this price generally lies within a certain fixed percentage of a parity price. Several years ago, Nigeria had a system of guaranteed price under which minimum support prices are announced by the government for major food crops or food grains and cocoa well in advance of the serving season with the clear objectives of mitigating price uncertainty. So one of the major uncertainty which afflicts farmers' activities emerge from frequent phenomenon of sudden and precipitous fall in price of agricultural commodities. So the objective of this guarantee minimum price, as eventually understood, is to remove this uncertainty. That was the reason the government makes sure that there will be no fall in price, and even if there is surplus in the market or bump, uh, bumper harvest, the government will assure them of this guarantee price. Then let us look at the C, buffer stock for intervention purchase or public storage. So it also aims at removing price uncertainty as well. In this method, the buffer stock authority or the government agency purchase stocks of agricultural commodities in years of bumper harvest and unloads them into the market in years of crop shortage with a view of raising the price in times of glut and lowering them in times of scarcity. So this is what the government do. They buy from them. So as such, the farmers will have nothing to lose, even during bumper harvest, because when they take it to the market to sell, some of them will end up coming back. So the government do what they do is to buy the surplus from them and then distribute them later, sell them up later. So that is what the government do. They are doing this to alleviate the suffering of the farmers and also encourage them to produce more. So, but in Nigeria, buffer stock scheme is mainly for grains crops, especially maize, for which government builds silo in several locations in the country. Let us also look at the information and communication technology and risk management in agriculture. So, central role of information and communication technology, let's look at it. The role played by information and technology in risk management. Risk management strategies are numerous, which could be extended strategies adopted before a risk event occurs. This can reduce risks or limit exposure to risks. That is, a farmer can grow pest-resistant varieties or diversify into crops unaffected by these pests. Risks can also be mitigated, extended by buying insurance or through other response to expected losses, such as self-insurance, that is a precautionary savings, or reliance on social network for access to community saving, for example. It could also be exposed strategies that's adopted to cope with losses from risks that have already occurred, including selling assets, seeking off employment, that is off farm employment. No, in this situation, those are the different types of risk mitigation. Ex post strategy. These ones they are back on this already. The risk has occurred, and now what they do, they sell, because by the time, if maybe the risk that involves has must have claimed all their produce or their stock, then the next thing they have to do is to sell their assets, or they seek off farm employment, that is employment elsewhere outside farming, in order to offset or in order to stabilize their. So let us also look at the farmers information, that is the information needed in relation to crop cycles and markets. It is in a tabular form here. Have it here. Information on agricultural inputs. As you look at the column, the row 1, information on agricultural goods inputs, then good agricultural practices, post-harvest management, alternative market channels. So under information on agricultural inputs, we have seeds, fertilizer, pesticides. Then good agricultural management, we have pest management. Post-harvest, we have storage. As once their crops are being harvested, they can store, or once they produce, their animals are due for table, if they slaughter it, they also store it. Then alternative market channels, we have commodity price. Then still under information, we have credits here, good agricultural practice, we have harvesting time and techniques. Then post-harvest, we have grading and standardization. Then alternative market, we have wholesale market price. No, wholesale market price is, when somebody buying wholesale, definitely the price will not be compared to the somebody buying in retails. The wholesale market price, when you buy in wholesale, the price will be reduced. So they put all this. Those are the information needed by the farmers in crop cycle and markets. Then weather soil testing. That's still under information on agricultural inputs. Then we have here good agricultural practice. Under good agricultural practice, then we have logistic market information under post-harvest, as the market where you get the information where you'll be able to sell, or the farmers will be able to dispose of or sell their produce. Then alternative market channels, here we have information on consumers' behavior. What do the consumers really need before you embark on production? So those information has to be handy by the farmers before they start production, so that they will not produce at a loss. So this is what the consumers highly needs information on what they need, their taste. Then the consumers or the producers will now work on this. So let's also consider the application of ICT to manage agricultural risks. A survey of current application of ICT to manage agricultural risks suggests that they are valuable for two primary reasons. Let's look at the reasons. One of the reasons is that ICT channels information, advice, and finance to farmers who are difficult to reach using conventional channels. That with the help of ICT, the farmers will also have access to information. They will also be able to have access to advice because in ICT, will be able to also have finance. That is, they will know the source of finance where they will be able to obtain either loan or whatever in order to help them carry out their productive activities. Number two, ICT reduce the cost of organization to provide risk management service. Sometimes, with the help of ICT, then you can sit down in your bedroom and listen to messages or listen to trainings or advice on how to manage risks. So instead of maybe calling people, bringing in experts to train. So with the help of ICT, you can sit down in your bedroom and get all the information you need and get all the training you need in order to help you manage risks. It says ICT reduce the cost of organization to provide risk management service because they can greatly reduce the cost of collecting, storing, processing, and disseminating information. So this cost reduction have produced two effects that encourage private investment in ICT to manage agricultural risks. Also, we have this effect, these previously unprofitable activities have become profitable. That's one thing with the help of ICT. The second one, that reduction in operating costs can reduce prices for the end users. Then information service will allow farmers ever more interactive as two-way communication with agricultural experts and others in agricultural innovation system with the incorporating of ICT, supply chains are becoming far more transparent and capable of including smallholders because even the smallholders farmers or small scale farmers, they can also have information. So technology seems to help farmers avoid default risks and produce to consistent quality specifications. At least once they have this information, they will be able to produce based on specification what the consumers want, which is an important step towards participating in more lucrative commodity markets. Now, once the farmers are able to produce based on the consumers' taste or what the consumers really needed, then they will be able to participate fully in the market. So let us look at also the problems. What are the problems of this ICT in risk management? Number one is the service cost. That is cost of risk management service, particularly the information service, customized to their needs. Besides adequate customization occur, most risk management service needs public or private funding to support farmers' initial assets. Yes. Hence, partnership is central to assembling the combination of knowledge, skill, and resources required to manage risks through the use of ICT. So successful efforts and display cooperation between software developers, hardware manufacturers, agricultural experts, financial intermediaries, state government and institutions, donors, non-governmental organizations, mobile operators, and others in the private sectors. They have to partner with this to help them reduce the service costs. Then capacity. Here, farmers' capacity. Farmers' capacity is also a determining factor to a successful application of ICT in risk management. Rural areas where risk management services are so desperately needed also lack education service. These people, they lack the education service, the financial service, and even agricultural service. All this, they lack all these things. So many aspects of human capacity, such as financial literacy, knowledge of best agricultural practice, and familiarity with technologies are prerequisites for using risk management tools successfully. So majority of farmers in the rural areas in developing countries have not fulfilled these prerequisites. So let us also look at the gender issues. The gender issues. In most cases, women and other vulnerable groups do not have equal access to risk management tools. Traditional, traditional cultural norms in many societies restrict women mobility, women education, and awareness, all of which affects their ability to acquire information on advisory services to help manage agricultural risks. So the underlying structural gender constraints make them passive recipients rather than active seeker in information. You see, because there are so many areas in Nigeria where women are being delegated to the background that they will not allow them to have access to any information that will help them to reduce the risks. So even when women proactively seek information, their access to information and ability to use it are hampered by gender norms and stereotypes. So let us also consider the trust in information and transfer. So looking at this, the trust in information and transfer, trust in information and trust in transfer products are also critical issues in management. The information of our delivery mechanisms seems to influence farmers' confidence and trust in the information as well as how they use it. So farmers in Nigeria and other developing countries are more likely to act upon information received directly from an expert than an information provided by automated database. You know, they will not, they always think that all those information are fake. So farmers are also more likely to trust and act on information they receive from a person standing in front of them than from somebody on the phone or automated phone message. So they prefer somebody to see face to face. They will read information that comes face to face than the the okay. Let us also consider the basic requirements for application of ICT in risk management. So we have one of the basic requirements here as infrastructure. So basic facilities. We have infrastructure here. Basic facilities that are required for take-off application of ICT in risk management are uninterrupted in electricity delivery and mobile network coverage. So the importance of electricity in ICT usage cannot be overemphasized. Even if mobile network coverage is achieved in all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, epileptic nature of electricity supply will hinder the delivery of information as when due. Yes, that is the major challenge we have in Nigeria, power supply. Then the second one is institutional and regulatory reform. There should be a reformation of traditional institutions and cultural background that can serve as a barrier to adoption of ICT for risk management. 3. Business climate reforms. The business climate must be reformed in such a way that participation and innovation from private sector in utilization of ICT in agricultural risk management will be encouraged. Those are the requirements for application of ICT. The fourth one is technological, agricultural, and financial literate, literacy farmers. Low financial, technological, and agricultural literacy represent a significant barrier to effective use of ICT in risk management by farmers in Nigeria and other developing countries. So availability of trained agricultural extension agents will salvage the situation by educating the farmers. I wish, because that's the major challenge we have. Right now, presently, I think the extension agents to farmers in Nigeria should be about 1 to maybe 4,000. So which if these can extension agents, the government will try as much as possible, and even the non-governmental organization should maybe employ some extension agents, or maybe bring in get more extension agents. It will help to alleviate this problem of illiteracy. Let us also consider the ICT application for mitigating risks. ICT application for mitigating risks. We have here information is the most critical requirement for effective risk management or mitigation. And farmer needs a variety of information to make choice to manage. So there are two types of information here that are most important for risk mitigation. This includes early warning, that is about the likely occurrence of inclement weather, pest and disease outbreak, and market price volatility. Advisory information to help farmers decide upon the course of action to manage production costs or risks optimally, or to respond early warning. So the connection between agricultural advisory service and risk mitigation is an important one, because information alone is often not sufficient to manage risk. For example, if a farmer knows that banana disease was spreading nearby, he or she required help in choosing the right action to prevent the information of plants they own. Yes, they need not only information on how to manage, mitigate, but they need also information on how to prevent this infection. So in many cases, the early warning or decision supports information already exists. One difficulty has been to collect and process this information so that it is relevant to individual farmers. Another has been to transmit the information to rural population in poorly connected areas in cost-effective ways. See, that is it. The information is there, but how do you disseminate this information to these people? So this is also a problem. Then also the ICT application have made it easy and cheaper to achieve these objectives. So ICT, with the help of the ICT, all these problems has been solved, completely solved, at least has been reduced to a certain stage. ICT application for mitigation of cultural risks. Let's look at it. ICT have reduced the cost of gathering, processing, and disseminating information that helps farmers mitigate risks. They have done that with the help of all this information and communication technology, networking, and all this and that. They have really done so much in this. Information service using mobile phones and radio can direct early warning. Yes, radios, mobile phones, text messages, WhatsApp messages can direct the early warning of inclement weather, market movement, and pest and disease outbreak to farmers. With an early warning step can be taken to limit the potential losses. So with the help of ICT, they'll be able to communicate these early warnings to farmers, so that they will also take appropriate steps in order to reduce the potential losses. The farmer can also access advisory services, that they can be advised on what to do remotely to support their decision related to risk mitigation activities, or to choose the most appropriate action in response to an early warning. These decision support systems are critical for transforming information into risk mitigation actions. Those are the implications of application of ICT for mitigation risks. They have been able to have the first-hand information to be able to cope with risks and also mitigate it, prevent it. So, ICT application to transfer agricultural risks to application of ICT to transfer agricultural risks through instruments such as insurance and future contracts are still quite limited. Yes, I think that one is not really, but the widespread use of this instrument seems to be hampered by low level of institutional development, which will need more recreational institutional sectors, and also high cost, inability to customize products to meet smallholders requirement. Smallholders, since they are characterized by scattered land and also poor financial funding, also they don't have enough fund to be able to access this ICT, and then this will run rather that is this should help them. So by the time this is done, it will help them to improve their standard of living. So the widespread use of this instrument seems to be hampered by low level of institutional development, high cost, inability to customize products to meet smallholders' requirements, and poor financial literacy, rather than by the information constraints that ICT can address. Example, we have this application, ICT application app facilitating the design and delivering of index insurance. They also help them to deliver index insurance. Also, ICT have made it easy for smallholders to access and participate in spot commodity exchange. This use of ICT to participate in future contracts to hedge price risks remains a distant dream. Well, actually, we are still yet to get to that place, but we believe that we'll get there soon. Let us also look at application of ICT for coping with agricultural risks. There have been few applications of ICT to cope with agricultural shocks. Those that exist are proving important and potential transformative. They are very important and they also prove the potential transformative. Mobile phones enable ground personnel or affected person to report more easily to whoever is connected or connected, coordinating a response to the shock. This communication leads to better target relief efforts. 2 or 3. In the event of shock, ICT facilitates transfers and remittance to farmers from state and relief agencies such as or as well as from farmers' extended social networks. Also, finally, the disaster management is using more sophisticated application to collect and synthesize information from the field. In the future, this disaster management application might be applied to respond to agricultural shock. Then let us look at the recent ICT application for risk management. Here, farmers in many countries receive news of impending bad weather and catastrophic events, pest and disease outbreak, and price volatility in commodity market. Yes, normally they always talks about this weather impending dangers or impending weathers. At least with the help of ICT, the farmers will receive this information even before it happens. So as such, they will be able to put some precautional uh, guides on grounds or take precautions in order to prevent so much loss. Even if it occur, it may not really affect them so much because they have been able to get the information already. So the use of ICT has reduced the cost and increased the profitability of providing this information, which has attracted private sector's participation in the space traditionally dominated by state extension service or agricultural institutes. So it's with the help of information and communication technology, at least the private sectors has also come into this in order to help stand in as an extension or render extension services to agricultural institutions to the farmers. Another one, the private sector originally developed service to provide market price information. They do this with the help of ICT. The private sectors now develop services to provide market price information to the farmers, but most of these services have evolved in delivering news about impending catastrophes and inclement weather. So what they do here, they also give them information about the impending catastrophe. That is the risks that will affect so many farmers, and also about the inclement weather. Another issue, emerging issue is that the one difficulty in providing early warning or advisory services to farmer was not that the information was lacking, but that it could not be delivered effectively. That means it is not delivered on time before, so that the farmers will take precautionary actions to guide against losses. ICT makes it easier to collect information from university and institute that produce it, and then to personalize it and provide it directly to the farmers. That's the emerging issues of ICT, but before it wasn't so. So the medium matters, however. A radio announcement is a different form, different from phone calls, which is again different from text messages. So collaboration between the private and public sector is also increasing. The fourth issue, emerging issue, is that the public sectors generates early warning and provide experts advice, while the private sectors has funds that can leverage ICTs, particularly mobile phones and back-end data collection and processing system. So that's what they are saying, that while the private sector has funds that can leverage ICT to deliver this content to the farmers, as using either mobile phones and back-end data collection quickly. Profitability remains a challenge. In many instances, the upfront investment and capital costs, such as the cost of investing in weather and ICT infrastructure, as well as the operational costs, are very high. So a long-term horizon and significant economics of scale are required to break this through. Fourth issues that arise is the ability to deliver, or the fifth issue is the ability to deliver highly personalized information. That is another key to earning revenue. Farmers naturally want information relevant to themselves, their crops, their plants, and livestock disease. Their markets in a language they can speak. That means it must be translated to vernacular, their local languages, where they will understand better. So it is difficult to elicit direct payment for service from farmers. But if farmers see a value proposition, they are often willing to pay for the service. That is it. As a result, private participation in delivering information should be encouraged where possible. But the commercial sustainability of such initiative should be analyzed rigorously. The seventh issues, that is, the information service provider should be encouraged to partner with the public sector to secure the content. Well, in conclusion here, in this lesson you have learned about the need for government intervention in risk management and instruments that government uses to mitigate or assist the farmers to cope with agricultural risks. You have also learned about the use of ICT in risk management. ICT can be used for risk mitigation, risk transfer, and risk scoping. Summary. There are different layers of risks, namely normal risks, marketable risks, and catastrophe risks. Catastrophe risk requires government intervention because of its devastating effects. Rationales for government intervention in risk management are information costs, externality, and market power. Price stability policies are used by government to combat price risks vis-a-vis production risks. We have also considered the central role of information in risk management, challenge and enabler of ICT in risk management, and ICT and risk mitigation, as well as emerging issues from application of ICT in risk management. You can try these assignments. Then in our live class facilitation, we'll discuss on it. The assignment is mention and discuss the use of price stability policies. Mention the use of price stabilization. Mention and discuss the use of price stabilization policies in risk management. Thank you for listening.